Support for this podcast comes from Eightfold AI. Eightfold AI's market-leading talent intelligence platform helps organisations retain top performers, upskill and reskill their workforce, recruit talent efficiently, and reach diversity goals. Eightfold's patented deep learning artificial intelligence platform is available in more than 155 countries and 24 languages, enabling cutting-edge enterprises to transform their talent into a competitive advantage. For more information, visit eightfold.ai.
There's been more of scientific discovery, more of technical advancement and material progress in your lifetime and mine than in all the ages of history.
Hi there, this is Matt Alder. Welcome to episode 586 of the Recruiting Future podcast. The ever-shortening shelf life of skills, fast-changing business priorities, ageing populations, and changing attitudes to work mean that retaining the right talent is not only more difficult than ever, it's also likely to remain so for years to come. It's not surprising then that talent leaders are starting to think differently about the structure of their function, to remove silos and foster collaboration between talent acquisition, talent management, L&D, and other vital people functions. So, what kind of overarching vision is needed to drive effective cross-function thinking? And what strategic role should TA be playing internally within the organisation? My guest this week is Hélène Loine, VP of Human Resources at Ekkiden. Hélène's background is in recruiting, working at rapidly scaling companies. Her focus at Ekkiden is building a shared vision of employee experience to connect HR silos to improve hiring and retention. Hi, Hélène, and welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Matt.
An absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Please, could you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Sure. Thank you for the invitation first. My name is Hélène. I'm French, and I'm currently VP HR at Ekkiden, which is a European consulting company operating in different countries, currently several over Europe. We are providing digital, industrial, and sustainable competencies for clients. I joined there 3.5 years ago when the team was only counting a few people, and we grew very fast from 10 to 250 in 3 years. Well, I'm sure we're going to talk about it later. And I am a VP, as a VP HR, I am supervising, so to say, the whole candidate and employee life cycles, from the talent acquisition to the talent development, culture design, so on, so until the exit. And before that, I was we were living in Germany for 7 years, where I worked as a HR business partner, focusing also on recruitment, but also in operations for the hotel chain Premier Inn, and that was currently expanding on the German market. And when I joined, there was one hotel, and when I left, there were 33, and I think now they are even over 50, and the expansion's still going on.
Wow, so kind of scaling businesses is something that you've done at least a couple of times now. Let's talk about Premier Inn to start with. What were the talent acquisition challenges with growing a hotel chain like that quickly? How did you get around them? What kind of lessons did you learn?
Yeah, it was very tough, but I learned a lot because, Premier Inn is very known in the UK, but is completely unknown in Germany. And we were recruiting for the hospitality industry for a brand that was still unknown on the German market and at that time. So hospitality, doesn't have always a very good reputation in terms of working conditions. So it was not always very easy to attract talents. There was a big opportunity for an HR approach that would break with the traditional practices in force at the time, and a strong culture that was implemented by Nathalie Busch and Inge van Otegem, in order to, to quickly offer competitive working conditions and be able to also attract and recruit people. And at the same time, in Germany, it was quite interesting because there was a wave of immigration, of political and war refugees. So we worked together with associations to help integrating these people that were arriving. And there were some very good success stories, particularly for people who arrived who didn't speak the language and who, after solid training and internal development programs, were able to become team managers, for example. So many different situations that taught me that it's not so simple to recruit personalities instead of looking for a perfect CV.
Amazing. That's so interesting to have kind of been through that experience. And what are the similarities and what are the differences in terms of what you do now? So scaling a consulting business, what's the same? What's very different?
It's always, I think, a question of adapting to the industry you're working on, because in my case, I didn't know anything about hospitality nor consultancy before I worked for those industries. And in the end, I think it's a little bit like marketing. You have first to understand the target audience to find out what they are really looking for, offer them the right conditions that will suit them, and then adapt the speech and what you're offering to be convincing. And there are clear differences, of course, in terms of profiles between those two industries. At Ekkiden, we also are receiving over 30,000 applications a year, whereas at Premier Inn, at the beginning, it was very few. And I would say that what is also, of course, very similar is the speed of growth, as you mentioned, because when you're recruiting a lot and recruiting fast, you are facing real cultural and identity challenges within the company. You need to quickly find out which values you have, which personalities will match them, and which environments you need to develop to grow them. So I think it was more situational similarities, so to say.
And I suppose to kind of use that comparison to get a benchmark as to where we are right now, because this year has been the year where we've done a lot of talking about AI and automation. And I know that a lot of employers have been effectively using some of the tools that are currently available in their talent acquisition activities. How would you have benefited in the past from some of the tools that are available now?
I think first that we would never be able to process 30,000 applications a year without any AI or automation. And when we are talking about AI and automation, it's not just used in the recruitment process, but also, throughout the entire employee life cycle. And I think for the time at Premier Inn, it will be very beneficial to use AI or automation to be able to generate more application, for example, using retargeting in recruitment, automating a bit more the sourcing. However, since the target groups are very different, I'm not sure it would have worked at this time, but maybe more trying to automating tasks that don't add value in the employee life cycle, to be able to focus more on things that really matter, such as support, culture, events, and even sometimes simple things such as listening or passing on knowledge, for example.
Interesting. And how are you using the tools now? How is it part of I suppose not just TA, but the whole of HR in terms of what you're doing?
Well, we are connecting all our tools together. We are making sure that the different silos of HR are connected. When we grew from 0 to 230, we gradually developed the different topics in HR, because first it was about how to attract and hire people, and then it was more about how make sure they will stay, and they will stay with us for a long time. And the different functions of HR started to connect between each other and to communicate strongly together. So it started to be there first in recruitment, of course, but then Also, in all topics related to data, to be able to generate automated reports, for example, or predictive analytics for workforce planning, or to automatize also like emails or different like touch points in the whole employee life cycle, to be better focused on things that really matter, that machines are not able to replace yet.
Greetings from Evergreen Podcasts. We're rolling out a listener survey and we want to hear from you. The information in the survey will help us gather statistics and in turn make our shows more appealing to advertisers. I know most people don't like ads, but this is one of the only ways our shows make money and help keep their lights on. We promise it will only take a few minutes, but the impact on our podcasts will be tremendous. As a token of our appreciation, we'll randomly select one lucky participant each month to win an exclusive merchandise package from Evergreen Podcasts. Head to evergreenpodcast.com/listener-survey to help a show and possibly get some free stuff for doing so. We can't thank you enough for the support. Now back to the show.
A quick word from our sponsors, namely, the more your business grows, the more important the essentials become. Your employees deserve a simple and seamless HR experience, and Namely makes it easy. Namely is the all-in-one HR solution with a modern, intuitive platform to save you time and keep your employees engaged. Whether you have 20 or 1,000 employees, Namely's award-winning technology makes your HR, payroll, and compliance needs easy to manage. From onboarding and open enrollment to payroll and time tracking, Namely handles the HR essentials so you can focus on your core business initiatives. You'll save time and gain the data you need to support your employees and keep your company thriving. And Namely is designed with everyday users in mind. Your team can easily navigate Namely's self-service tools to request PTO, acknowledge peers, review pay stubs, and enroll in benefits. There's even a mobile app to keep everything accessible, whenever and wherever your employees need it. Make HR simpler for everyone. Power your business with Namely today. Learn how your business can benefit today at namely.com. That's namely.com.
So I think the interesting thing when we're talking about scaling business, so as you say, you kind of start off, talent acquisition is the main thing. As the business gets bigger, HR starts to split into these silos, but now they're working together much more closely. Is that just driven by the technology, or is it a different way of thinking about talent, the people in your business?
I think it's like, in our company, definitely the move, but I think overall in general in HR, it is slowly moving to or evolving to a very like people-centric departments in HR. They can't be just like silos next to each other. They have to work more and more together to collaborate, to communicate strongly, sharing the data to collaborate effectively. In Ekkiden, we call the HR department like the POPs, because for people operations. And it's a department that focuses really on streamlined operations that can use data from all the different silos to drive then that decisions and projects and support tangible business results. And you have more and more like problems of retention, and the market is very competitive. There's nothing new in there. So companies must focus on the employee experience and culture, and this is on top, like over all the different silos. It's not you cannot just like differentiate those. They must work together.
Just tell us a little bit more about how that works from a retention perspective.
I think that the fact that if you are focusing on, you are taking the employee experience as a whole and not a talent acquisition strategy and talent development strategy, compensation and benefit strategy, and that you just make sure to understand who is your target group and what kind of different things you can offer them throughout the whole journey, and then you are even stronger in terms of retention, because talent acquisition can communicate on market trends, on compensation and benefit strategies, give you like inputs on how to work better in internal recruitment, for example, for career development purposes, learning and development certifications that will be key on the market, and so on. And so if you can straighten your compensation and benefits strategies, communicating better with talent acquisitions, or have a stronger personal development plans, talking also with talent acquisitions, or knowing better the market. So I think like if you take it as a whole, you will have personalized experiences for each of the employees, better understanding the environment, and better understanding what they really need. So yeah.
That makes perfect sense. And I think the value of the lens that talent acquisition has externally brought internally, as you say, incredibly important. I suppose that brings me on to the final question, which is, what do you think the future of TA looks like? We talked a bit about technology. What sort of impact is that going to have over the next 2 to 5 years?
Probably more AI even to streamline repetitive tasks and allow recruiters to be more focused on strategic aspects. Because as I was saying before, I think recruiters are no longer just sourcing and placing talents. Instead, the function is really like more as a strategic partner for the organization, with that must have deep understanding of broader business landscapes. And recruiters of tomorrow are, I think, expected to be more on top of market dynamics, competitive positioning, industry-specific challenges, and also influencers of the HR strategy, where, as I said before, in compensation and benefits, learning and development. But I think as well, there will be in talent acquisition probably more pressure around transparency and conditions that you're referring to employees. There is a lot of legislative pushes currently in Europe around, for example, pay transparency directives in the European Parliament, where European companies will be required to share information on salaries, taking care of gender pay gaps, make sure that it will be not longer than something like 5%. So it will be like a key business and centric business actor, I think.
Hélène, thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you.
My thanks to Hélène. You can subscribe to this podcast in Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or via your podcasting app of choice. Please also follow the show on Instagram. You can find us by searching for Recruiting Future. You can search all the past episodes at recruitingfuture.com. On that site, you can also subscribe to our monthly newsletter, Recruiting Future Feast, and get the inside track about everything that's coming up on the show. Thanks very much for listening. I'll be back next time, and I hope you'll join me.
This is my show.
Welcome to Don't Retire, Graduate, the podcast that asks you what you want to be when you grow up so you can graduate into retirement with a purpose and a passion, whether you're 25, 85, or any age in between. Gain actionable financial and mindset tips from your favorite authors, podcasters, and influencers to help you reach that exciting next chapter. Listen now and start building your path to financial freedom and reframing what retirement can mean to you. This is your host, Eric Brotman, reminding you, don't retire, graduate.